Hey guys, it's Darth, and we are back in Queen's Blade Limit Break. And what we're going to be doing today is we're just going to be doing a second look, just a final kind of like overview take. I don't like kind of final review because I want to do an individualized review at full strength. But this is a second take on the two arrival warriors that they introduced with the New Year's event. There's actually three. There was an Ultimate Warrior who's actually very cool, by the way. Her animations are top notch, and they are getting better with animations on Warriors. But we won't be covering her because I don't have her. Most people, 99% of the community, won't have one of these Warriors, let alone more than one. I'm talking about the new SP Break Warrior and the new SP Physical Warrior. Keep in mind that the Break SP Warrior is the first of the Break and Dual Attribute Warriors. So there's a lot to kind of process when it comes to this. And the physical one, this is actually the third in this series, bringing the total SP Warriors to 3 for the physical attribute as well as the skill. So let's go in, and because this is just like a second look, this is just an opportunity for me to either correct something that I said or that was taken out of context during my initial overview. Keep in mind, I'm not changing my when I recommend pulling, you got to understand that I'm still recommending pulling because you should have one of every warrior for various reasons throughout the game. If you don't, you're hindering your currency gains in a lot of aspects of the game. But because it's not a full review and it's only done in the trial aspect of it, keep in mind the stats are normalized in the trial aspect, meaning that you're not getting the full effect of abilities and there could be bugs there. Let's take a look at the Break Warrior. And on second look here, and having read and talked with other people, this is an extremely crappy excuse for a Break SP Warrior. Hands down. This is a bad outing, guys, for SP, for Break and Duel. It seems like they are really focusing on the skill and even the physical attribute. Mind is still falling behind. Duel is falling behind, even though it's still a great actual overall team. But this is a crappy outing. First and foremost, Summoner. She's not summoning anything. She's not even like a witch where she summons apparitions or various things like that. She doesn't summon beasts. She was kind of marketed in the pictures as being able to summon beasts and do things. And it would have been cool had they gone that route. Summon a beast to actually do the ability. If you're buffing up a team, maybe roar and buff up the team. Completely missed the mark on what they kind of pictured in a lot of their marketing strategy. What's up with that, G123? Oh, excuse me. I'm still sick, guys. Anyways, I want to touch on a couple of abilities here. I don't want to go through them all. She specializes in supposedly damage, spread, heal, and attacking up. I want to touch on this line ability real quick. Completely useless. Again, I said that in my review. If you get to a point where your heroes are dying, there's not really much that's going to happen to save you outside of P. Claudette saving herself. Dying and healing for 240%, still not going to make a change. If that's all she does on this ability, then it's a completely wasted ability that needs to be enhanced with something else. Very, very bad showing, G123. She specializes in damage spread. Basically, she grants magic damage resist. Really? Magic damage resist? For an SP Warrior, I hate when they say, well, we're going to resist magic or physical damage as a whole. This should have just been damage resist, but then it would have been very powerful because 20% damage resist is equivalent to 20% damage reduction. That's what it is, guys. But she grants this ability where if an ally gets hit, they just spread the damage. Now, I couldn't see, I played a lot of video back, I couldn't see if all allies were being hit if they spread the damage multiple times. I don't know if that's what is happening there. Apologies, guys, but that's not what I want to talk about. What really kind of burns the second thought process on this is this first ability because she's a cleanser. A lot of people had hopes that, and even I had hopes that she was going to be able to counter the fish and help out with cleansing debuffs. Not just the fish debuffs, but other debuffs. Other debuffs that can be removed. She removes all debuffs from 4 allies with the highest attack. And then on a secondary note, she increases attack crit rate, which is, again, I think that this is very bad putting this on the same ability. First of all, attack crit rate and buffs like this are pretty standard now on a 2-turn cooldown. If you look at Witch of Allure, I want to say Anolet, they're on a 2-turn buff so that you can keep the buffs going. And that's where these types of buffs should be. They fall off, you reapply. It gives your support heroes something to do because they don't do dick for damage in most cases. And this warrior is no different because she doesn't really do a lot of damage. She's there for very specific purposes. Now, the real problem is removing debuffs. Keep in mind that a lot of people look at cleansers for the fish. There's got to be more counters to the fish, and there just isn't. And it's because of the way she's programmed. The fish forces you, when you are charmed, to perform a normal attack, meaning you can't use your abilities. You miss out on your abilities. Meaning that if you get charmed here, you can't remove the debuff from your allies because you have to perform a normal attack. Second problem, it's on a 4-turn cooldown, which doesn't do dick. But let's do a second look at this, guys. I don't envy the programmers because one of the hardest things to do is not make a warrior so OP that she can't do anything. Fish. And yes, I am taking aim at the fish because they messed her abilities up so bad in a lot of ways. And I'm going to finally do a video where I address the issues, and then I'm going to issue a challenge to anybody to counter me with facts, actual facts, as to why she's not overtuned. Everybody knows that she is. So I'll address that in a follow-up video. Removes all debuffs, but the problem is it's on a 4-turn cooldown. So here's the problem. Removes all removable debuffs is what that should say, because they're programming a lot more warriors with debuffs that can't be removed. Now, if you can just come in and automatically cleanse all debuffs, you pretty much make a lot of debuff damage and other abilities completely useless. You can't reduce the cooldown without sacrificing the usefulness of so many other warriors, and that's the balance that the devs have to follow. What they could have done is make a team cleanser who comes in and cleanses immobilization effects and not debuff damage, because debuff damage is a part of a warrior's kit. Without debuff damage, they don't do damage anyways, or it's part of their overall kit. I don't want to, I hesitate to limit that to immobilization effects, but what it should do is it should remove those types of effects. But on a 4-turn cooldown, it still is almost as effective as fairy dust in the real world. I'm sorry. There's no way else to put that. Again, if you can come in and cleanse immobilization effects so often, you render immobilization effects useless as well. So that's the second take. I don't envy the developers having to program something like this, but I also think that this ability is completely wasted because they don't know what they're doing when it comes to cleansers. That's why there's not that many cleansers in the game. I'm sorry. This ability right here completely makes her, this ability right here, along with this ability and this fourth ability, makes her a complete shit warrior because the devs don't know what they're doing with her. And they can't make her OP. But they have no problems making the fish OP. I'm just saying. It's not an easy task. So let's go look at the physical warrior real quick. And yes, I am going to pull for her. No, I did not pull for the break warrior. I apologize. I thought I had her. That's my bad. I know it seems hard to take, but I'm still on medication. And I get up at 4 in the morning to go to work. So what's the big draw here? She was kind of marketed, and a lot of people kind of took issue with what I said, that she is actually a counter to the burn transfer when you have Nanelle on your team. That is 100% accurate. She is actually supposed to be a counter, if that's what you can call it. And that's the issue I have with this warrior, right here on this ability. At the start of battle, she sacrifices 50% of her HP to gain 100% HP shield. Awesome. Awesome. You build her with high health, right? Wrong. Right and wrong. The issue I have with this here is that she's only about 20% effective, and then after that, she loses most of her effectiveness. That's not all she does. She's a shield, burn, follow-up attacker. She's actually a follow-up attacker. She actually generates fire bombs on attack in which that she buffs her own magic damage. I've said magic damage is far behind physical damage, especially when it comes to competing on bosses. Most bosses are single target bosses, and magic damage just doesn't do anything when it comes to single target damage. Physical will always win. And in PvP scenarios, magic damage doesn't do dick. I'm sorry, it just doesn't do anything. And a lot of people will argue that magic damage isn't there. You still stack up numbers because you hit multiple targets, right? But if you're not putting any of the enemy team in danger, which you're not doing, by the way, you're not putting any of the pressure on the team with magic damage. It needs to scale a little bit better. And with damage reduction, it just doesn't do anything. But she stacks these fire bombs that gives her damage resistance, giving her a fairly high damage attack when consuming it to do 200%, 210%. But to 3 enemies? Seriously? What's with that, G123? An SP warrior should be hitting all enemies standard. Come on. I get that she has a 200% attack, which is actually one of the highest magic damaging abilities outside of, like, let's say, the Axe Lady and some of the others. And yes, I'm taking aim at the bunny here on this one. But anyways, let's get back on track. So here's the problem with this ability here. 4-turn cooldown. So she triggers a shield that's supposed to make her the focal point because her HP is the lowest. Now transfers all burn damage to the lowest HP. Here's the issue. 4 turns. And then if you read this, it never triggers again. Until she takes fatal damage, she's left with 1% HP and generates a 50% HP shield. Which isn't going to do anything when you go up against, let's say, P. Claudette, because she wasn't in the trial. And a lot of people are saying that she's dying quickly. Well, that's because they don't understand, first of all, it's not just about this warrior. My understanding is that damage resist and damage reduction actually applies to burn damage and other types of damage similarly. And that includes P. Claudette's burn damage. P. Claudette's burn damage is so powerful is because flame burn is based on HP and not attack. Meaning that if you stack too many burns and flame burns, you're going to get nuked. So one of the things that people misunderstood, because I said it wrong in my video, is that you don't want to use a counterattack team when you have Nanelle on the team because you're stacking burns, more burns for her to transfer. The more burns, the more damage you take. But they are subject to damage resistance, which is why she stacks damage resistance up to 20%. And she does consume it, but then she has to get it back. And because she follow-up attacks, she actually gets it back fairly quickly. But understand that as a follow-up attacker, she's also gaining burn stacks. So there's a little bit of contradictory statement there. But my issue, again, is with this final thing here. She triggers a huge shield that is capable of withstanding the burn damage. Let's just say that she is. And then she never triggers it again, making her useful for only the first 4 turns of battle, and then when she dies, or takes fatal damage. She never generates the shield again, meaning that she's not a true counter. She only counters for 4 turns. And then she becomes just a regular DPS. Again, I'm going to beckon what I said about the break attribute warrior. It's not easy to sit there and program a warrior. If she can just re-up the shield every 4 turns, she basically renders Nanelle and burn damage useless in that scenario. But isn't that what a counter to a specific strategy is? They're supposed to render it useless. Not useless, but at least make it to where she's not a problem. What they could have done is taken this and generated another 100% shield every, so last 4 turns. She goes on a, let's say it goes on a 2-turn cooldown, 4, 5, 6, and then triggers again on turn 7 for another 4 turns, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Goes on a 2-turn cooldown. So at least she eats the burn damage twice during a battle instead of once. You're not going to kill Nanelle, and you're not going to kill P. Claudette in 4 turns. on an even scenario. That's what I'm saying. But you can't make her so overpowered that she just renders everything completely useless. Keep in mind, that's not the only place you can use her. She generates that 100% HP shield regardless of whether you put her up against a burn damaged team with Nanelle, making her extremely damage resilient. And believe it or not, counterattacking, stacking these fire bombs, and then detonating for 210%, which can crit, by the way. Unlike the bunny, she's not limited to, you don't put crit on her because she's going to be maxed at X times her damage, 4 times her damage anyways. This one doesn't suffer for that, meaning that she can crit and hit extremely hard. I don't know, guys. I think that people misunderstand Warriors and what the devs are trying to do, but I keep coming back to the fish and saying they had no problems making her overpowered as hell. And you'll see that when I do my follow-up video about this fish specifically. It's not easy to program. It's not easy to sit here and look at all these warriors and say, well, we want her to do a specific purpose, but we can't completely negate what the other warriors do. Or can we? Is that the true definition of a counter to a specific warrior? When it comes to cleansing, you can't just come in and cleanse everything because it renders everything useless if you can just cleanse all the time. So what do? What are your thoughts, guys? How could these warriors and other warriors be programmed a bit different? Sound off in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of this second take and these specific abilities that I talked about, and whether or not you think they could have done more or less, and whether or not you think that that would have rendered certain aspects of the game useless. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.